small-scale farmers are underpaid and underappreciated in the coffee industry. It was just the sight of seeing farmers in producing countries starving and, trapped in these contracts with big coffee companies and really struggling in this industry. And then coming back to America and seeing the coffee shops and the coffee companies that are selling the product at the end of the supply chain, making millions.
What up, y'all? Welcome to Untitled.mp3, audio file number 2. For this one, I interviewed my friend Nicholas Gonzales. He is the owner of Estas Manos Coffee, and in the last year, it's actually been on the rise, and I'm really happy for him. So, in this interview, I just pick his brain, the brain of a boss, of a business owner, and how his grind was and the story behind Estas Manos. So, I hope you really enjoy this audio file. Thank you.
To me. I thought I was just sound checking.
Gotcha, bitch.
Yeah, right. All right, start saying curse words, and we're just gonna mix them in.
Exactly. Gotcha, bitch. Make sure I got the EM business owner. Well, I guess this feels like a good time to start.
Let's do
it. Untitled MP3, audio file number 2. I got a really close friend with me, and before we get anything started, I just want to take us back to the first time we met, which was like, I don't know, a little more than a year ago.
Yeah, had to have been.
Till this day, I still remember you helped me move out without even knowing me, not one bit.
Hey man, I've lived that struggle out here in the city, and I know what it's like. So
yeah, but But that's a big thing. Like, even close friends don't want to help you move out. And then you just meet a dude. You don't even know his name. For now, he's just coffee guy.
Right.
And then you're just, like, holding my mattress on your head. You're just like, hey, where do you want this to go, bro? And I'm just like, oh, in there. Thanks for helping me.
Well, I figured I was going to need your help in the future. So,
Dang.
try to start the relationship off on the right foot.
It was a good relationship.
Yeah, of course.
It was?
Well, it is. It is a good relationship.
Yeah.
So let's get into it, man. Let the people know who you are and what you do.
Cool. My name is Nicholas, and Nicholas Gonzales, if I will. And I'm the owner of Estas Manos Coffee Roasters here in San Francisco, California.
Wow. And that's when I met you, you were getting this thing off the ground.
Right. I was just Nicholas Gonzales trying to get Estas Manos Coffee Roasters off the ground. And that was about a year and a half ago now. It all started in Berkeley, where I started roasting about a year and a half ago, and have been doing great and been loving it ever since. And
before roasting, before Berkeley and this whole idea, where was your life heading before this, before starting your own business, coffee roaster? Yeah,
so I actually never had any business experience prior to this, and I was in the middle of law school when I took a drastic career path change and direction change in what I was doing, and decided to move out to Latin America for a few months and learn about coffee production. So bit of a different scene of things than in the law school setting and in the legal setting. But I was doing that. I was putting on a suit and tie and sitting in my cube and living that life.
So what made you do it? Was it like a trip once you went to Latin America? You're like, oh, now I want to learn about coffee, or did you learn that out here that you wanted to learn? Wanted to learn more about coffee? Yeah,
it all started. Take it way back. It all started during my undergraduate degree at Arizona State. I took a few humanitarian aid trips out to Latin America, specifically Honduras and Nicaragua. And out there I had just seen firsthand a lot of issues, not only in coffee, but just in the agricultural trade in producing countries like the ones I visited. So I think that's where the passion started, and where the want to do something about the issues and problems that I saw out in those producing countries. That's where it all began. And then it took going to law school, taking that path of trying to make a difference here in the U.S., but then hitting a few bumps and a few roadblocks that then redirected me out to Latin America to learn about coffee.
Damn. And so how was it when you finally realized, like, shit, I think I want to quit law school? Like, how long did you go through that process? And if you can get just a little bit closer to the mic.
Yeah, definitely.
That's perfect.
Yeah. That's a great question. I don't know if I remember the exact point when I decided to take the leap. It was probably once I got my one-way plane ticket to Nicaragua. That's when the moment felt real of, all right, I'm making this change in my direction and I'm going for it. So that was summer 2017 when that happened. So it was a few months before that. I just started getting ready for my travels and started making the connections I needed to have a successful trip, and just jumped on a plane with my backpack, and that was the beginning of Estas Manos for sure.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Did you tell anyone? Like, did you just leave?
Yeah,
did you
no.
tell, like, your boys, your mom,
Yeah,
anyone?
no, I made sure to tell my mom, tell my partner, I told all my friends and family, because honestly, it was, looking back on it now, it was crazy. It was definitely something different, something dangerous, and something that I needed to be prepared for, and along with that was notifying my loved ones, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, everyone knew it was challenging keeping up communication while I was out there, but at least I made sure to let people know I was leaving.
When you decided that you wanted to do coffee, did anyone like tell you, like, really you're gonna choose coffee over being a lawyer or law?
You know, a lot of the people that know me definitely could have saw it coming. I was a bit of a coffee fanatic, if you will. I did have that passion for coffee in law school. We were in dorms for a little while, and I was known as the guy that had the coffee ready in the morning. And so, I had a greater appreciation for coffee, and so I made sure to share that with others. And I think that's what really sparked my desire to do something about it and start the brand and take that path. So, it was, it didn't surprise too many people that coffee specifically is what I ended up getting into.
And when you say, like, when you decided to change something in coffee, I don't think you've yet pointed out what that was. So what was the problem that you saw and you were just like, I want to start a business that can possibly affect how this transaction goes down?
Yeah. So it was just, if I could make it in as plain and simple, just the fact that small-scale farmers are underpaid and underappreciated in the coffee industry. And it was just the sight of seeing farmers in producing countries starving and, you know, trapped in these contracts with big coffee companies and really struggling in this industry. And then coming back to America and seeing the coffee shops and the coffee companies that are selling the product at the end of the supply chain, making millions. And you look at Starbucks, you look at all the big names, they're making a lot of money off of this commodity, and it just didn't seem right to me. And if I was going to do something about anything, I wanted to do something in coffee. And so it made sense. I had spent some time working in cafes, learning about the retail end of coffee, learning about how it was sold here in the U.S. And so it made the most sense for me to get the other side of it out in Latin America and developing countries.
Nice. What was your barista experience before all of this?
It was a couple of years that I was a barista. I was basically just a barista in school, trying to pay my way through college. So there were part-time barista jobs. I'd done everything from bar back to lead barista. So I got a good idea of the retail end of things. I really loved it. I really enjoy working on the retail end of the industry, working with the customer and seeing seeing that appreciation and enjoyment from coffee as much as I have. So I've seen that more here in San Francisco really than any other city I've been in. So that's it's got me most excited about being here.
Nice. So you get the idea down, you get your mission and vision, you go on this trip. So after you get back from your trip, did the name come then, or did it come while you were still on your trip?
So the name came from my trip, and specifically from my interactions with the farmers. It was a common practice out there to judge somebody that they've never met before, farmers that they've never met before, by taking a look at your hands. So a lot of farmers that I met, they would first ask me to see my hands. And they would, see how many calluses I had, how many cuts I had. And during my travels, I was taking dirt bikes up mountains to meet these farmers. So my hands were plenty dirty and destroyed. So I fit in really well. But it was just that interaction with the farmers and the idea of somebody's worth being how worn their hands are. And the farmers' hands were worn to, no other, because of how hard they were working for the coffee. And so I wanted that to reflect in the brand, in the company, and all the way through from seed to cup.
Damn. And I think that's perfect because your logo goes exactly with the name. It's literally a pair of hands.
Yeah.
And you hear the story behind it, which they judge you off of how tough your hands look, which mine does not look tough at all. How tough your hands look, and then and the fact that your logo essentially creates a bean with two hands, which is pretty awesome.
That was the goal.
So when you got back, what was your first step to starting? Like funding, where am I gonna get like coffee beans from? Who am I gonna get the supply from? All that. What was like your first step that you had to take?
First step, and this was from some advice I was given in starting a business, was first deciding on the name and establishing it as an entity. So that was what I ultimately worked for off the bat. Took some time figuring out the name, decided on the name, moved forward with that. A logo was a big push as well. So just kind of creating that foundation to work off of. I was told that was that's something that helps you get started and helps you kind of have something to work from. So that was definitely my first move off the bat. And then it was just learning roasting. Roasting was something that I was picking up on during my travels, more on like a traditional side of roasting. But coming back to the US, I needed to spend a lot of time diving into roasting and really understanding the craft. That was absolutely necessary for me before starting the company. I wasn't going to start, Estas Manos Coffee Roasters without fully understanding what roasting is and how it's done. So that was very important for me when I came back to understand that.
Did you were you mentored by someone on how to do that? YouTube, trial and error? How did you do that?
Yeah, I've had a lot of mentors along the way, a few in roasting specifically, but it wasn't until I came back to the Bay Area and started working at Co-Ro and really got to know that community and meeting people there at Co-Ro that really helped get me started. Just working with a lot of those guys there and that whole camaraderie and just instant feedback on things. It was a great community to get started, and that's definitely what helped me get that push off.
Nice. So you get all this done, you get the experience, and now you gotta honestly, you gotta look at San Francisco and then be like, I'm starting a business in the most coffee competitive, the most expensive city in the world.
Yeah.
Well, how did you think? Well, I mean, obviously. Well, we'll talk about where you're at now, but at the moment, how did you think, how am I going to compete with the prices and the competitiveness in the coffee? Because it's pretty coffee rich in San Francisco.
Yeah. It was kind of a double-ended sword where yes, it's expensive to start a company here, and yes, it's competitive with coffee, but at the same time, it's because it's so competitive, and it's because coffee is so rich here and so valued here that ended up benefiting me getting started here, and that was kind of my approach. There are plenty of other cities that I could have looked into getting started in, but San Francisco made a lot of sense because of the coffee culture here. And so I feel like that has really helped me get started. And so, yeah, I have definitely appreciated San Francisco's competitiveness because the community here is great. It's competitive, but no one's out to step on your toes. Everybody's here for the love of coffee, and so far I've loved it here in the San Francisco coffee community.
Now, has it been weird? Have you ever gotten into a weird situation where you meet other coffee business owners and you kind of know that, well, you tell them your mission and vision for Estas Manos, and it's have you ever ran into a weird situation when they're just oh, you're kind of aiming at us, we kind of distribute the same way that you're trying to combat against?
Yeah, no, absolutely. There are definitely a lot of conflicting conversations in the coffee community, and I have ran into a lot, and I think probably ran into more than most because I am trying to push the envelope in one direction. But it's just kind of, at least my approach has always been respect all people's approaches to coffee, but focus on how I can improve Estas Manos and improve my roasting to reflect what I want to accomplish in coffee. So it hasn't been, there hasn't been any sort of feuds or butting heads with anybody out here in that sense, just because, again, everyone's out here to sell coffee. We're just trying to do it in a more honest and sustainable way.
Yeah. I guess if best comes to best, you have a really, it's on the rise. We'll talk about that. Estas Manos is rising. You get there, you're one of the big coffee roasters in San Francisco, and other people, you rub off on other people, and they're just I kind of want to distribute the same way they're distributing. Which would be awesome.
Right. That's ultimately the goal. That's what I'm trying to do. I'm not necessarily trying to be a big roaster. I'm not trying to be a national brand. That's not what I want to do. If Estas Manos is here and leaves and can make a difference in the coffee industry that is paying farmers more fairly and in a more sustainable way, then I've accomplished what I want to accomplish with Estas Manos. Nice. And so that's what I'm trying to do.
So in the last year, like we said in the beginning, we started. I mean, I saw you. There was no Cuberts, there was no Presidio picnics, and I think the best thing that I've seen from you, and you've told me about the opportunities, I can possibly get a Cubert, I could possibly get this, and I'll be where are you gonna get staff from? And you'll be we'll find that out on the way, dude. Right. So I'm just damn, he just does not. He'll just go for it. So it's kind of have you always been that way? You're just okay, if I meet opportunity, I'm gonna need to take it, no matter if I feel ready to go or if I don't.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say always been that way, but I would definitely say more towards where I'm at right now, I guess, in my adulthood, if you can even call it that. I am definitely more of a risk taker, and I know what I want, I know what I want to accomplish, and I know what it's going to take to get there. And so it's just, I've become less reliant on making excuses for it and just doing what I can to get there. Yeah.
How important has it been, making these little connections along the way for you to get these big opportunities?
It's been huge, absolutely huge. The main reason I'm at where I'm at and I've been able to accomplish what I've accomplished so far has been because of my network. It's been because of the people I've met along the way, to introduce me to other people, and yeah, ultimately that's how I took my first sourcing trip to start the company, was through my network and through connections that I've made in the industry here in the US. And so it was a much simpler process meeting farmers and making those connections with producers because of that network that I have. So those little connections, each single one, I try to hold on to because I know how important that is for my growth and for me to get to my goals and to what I'm trying to do here.
And connections is kind of the whole way you got into Presidio Picnic and your Cuber, right? You got that through...
Yeah.
Well, kind of like...
So, I mean, that one was a connection relationship, but it was at the same time, and to go back to your point about surviving out here in San Francisco and starting business, there was a point where I needed to get a side hustle and get a side gig and a part-time job. And it was probably one of the best part-time jobs I could have gotten because it was with a local group off the grid here in San Francisco. And I was just helping out with production, building up mobile markets, and breaking them down. And it was with that part-time gig that I introduced the coffee company to them and reached out for opportunity. And there was huge opportunity with Off the Grid and their new concept venue, Qbert. So that has been definitely one of the biggest stepping stones for us to be where we're at now.
And so now we're at Presidio Picnic, and today, as of today, you can hire people.
Right.
Now talk about the transition between like getting your homies to do it, because I was one of them. I couldn't do shit on the latte. I was about to call it a latte machine. I couldn't do shit on the espresso machine. God. I couldn't do anything on the espresso machine. You just had me like doing pour overs, doing whatever I can to help, and I gladly did it. So just talk about the transition of like, man, I was going to have to do this by myself. Okay, now I'm going to ask my homies. All right, now I got to get like legit.
Also, let's shout out that he's in the Salesforce building.
Oh, that's a little...
Oh, sorry. Sorry, everyone. I jumped the gun.
All good. And we're at the bottom of the Salesforce building. Salesforce wouldn't like hearing that we were in the Salesforce building.
We're at the bottom.
For other reasons. But, well, it's funny because my employees now are still kind of the homies. So we haven't fully transitioned out of that yet, but it's been good. Again, to point back to my network helping me get this far, it was because of a lot of my friends, a lot of my law school friends, helping out with this venture and stepping in to do a lot of the physical labor of setting up our markets and setting up the Cuber and all that. So we're still homie strong. You know, I got my guy Augustine helping out, taking over production for me. Hunter's there at the Cube, and so they're two guys that I've gone a long way back with, and hope that they'll continue working with us as we grow. But that's all I'm trying to do. I'm just trying to create like a fun, positive community, and like I definitely know that there is a serious side of that with running a business and being a boss and all that. But at the end of the day, like I was that barista, I was that bar back. I know what it's like being in a hostel or not the most fun cafe setting, and that's not what I want to create. I definitely want it to be somewhere where, you know, baristas are wanting to come join and be a part of, not only because of the giving back aspect of, you know, providing for our farmers, but just it's a cool place to be. Yeah. Interesting place to be, especially the Cuber.
For the record, before the podcast,
yeah, what you
you said, do not call me boss, and you just referred to yourself as a boss, sir.
Well, I said being a
flexing,
boss. Not
flexing hard. For the people, because I know I've thought like, I mean, you've showed me how hard it is to start your own business and how much you got to grind. And I think beforehand, it sounds fun, right? Owning your own business. So how much harder are you working now than ever before? Or are you not really? Or is it not the hardest you've worked?
Yeah, this has definitely been the hardest job I've ever had, and just the hardest focus I've ever devoted to. So right now I'm doing about 7 days a week. It's definitely a struggle, but I know it's what needs to be done. And again, part of my network that has been successful with a business, that's what they tell me. They tell me that it takes time. It takes 100% sacrifice a lot of the time. So I'm giving it that and hoping that soon I can start getting my days back to, focus on other things other than the business. But it's just one of those things it's got to get done, and I'm loving it. I'm loving every step along the way. Like I've never been a morning person and never thought I could be a morning person. But I enjoy waking up every morning at 4:30 and getting the Q-Bird open by 7 a.m. and it's just that drive and that love for what I do and for what I'm doing it for that's got me keep going.
Nice. Can you name, like, just real quick, like some of the hats that you've had to wear being a new business owner and what you had to learn? Because you go in it like, I love coffee, I want to help people, but then you got to learn how to do so much things. Like, it's not only a business owner, you got to learn how to just list them off. Like, what are things you've learned on the job?
There's accountant, there's HR, there's just business development, there's marketing, there's the operations side of it. It's definitely got a lot of hats. I don't necessarily focus a lot of my daily routine to all the hats, just because I've realized that can't be done. But there are certain hats I'm not the biggest fan of. I don't come from a marketing background. I don't come from a financial background or an accounting background. So those hats aren't my favorite, but that's what, having a solid team and a solid network, that's what helps me get through it. So, quite a few to choose from.
Damn. I guess I know it could seem really like interview-esque, but like what I want for people to do is be able to listen to this and kind of like learn from your path, from your, like, if someone's trying to open a business, like I would love to own my own business. So it's kind of like a lesson for me, which sounds scary but exciting at the same time. So that's why it seems really interview-ish. I just want you, and you're doing a great job, by the way.
Build up your team, build up your network for sure. Unless you are confident with all of the hats it takes to open a business, which I don't know anybody that would be. Unless you are, like, you're going to need a team. So that would be like my one piece of advice, is knowing that there will be a lot of hats to wear and you won't be able to wear them all every single day and do it effectively. So definitely a point to find others to help take some of that burden off you.
Nice. And I'm pretty sure I remember the last time I talked to you, you told me about how much sleep you're not getting, and then I felt so bad for you, and you were just like, man, I'd rather do it for my own company than for anything else, So it's kind of like it hurts you, but at the same time, it doesn't hurt you. Yeah. You're just like, I'm working my ass off, but it's for myself. Yeah. And it's for my vision, my business, which is really cool. So I guess in just wrapping this up, I want to ask you the two last questions of the podcast. So number one, what are some of your proudest moments, business-wise or personally?
Okay. Business-wise, proudest moments have definitely been landing the Q-Bird at the bottom of Salesforce Tower and Transbay Transit Center. That has been huge, exposure-wise, just experience-wise for the company. And so that, it's been great. It's like prime real estate there, meeting a lot of really cool people. Love going to that location when I'm able to. But other than that, I would say our first year landing at the San Francisco Coffee Festival was a pretty. That was fun. It was great. It was a really fun event and like a really good launch for Estas Manos, and even though we were still very new and very unestablished, it was cool being in the same arena as like some of the top dogs
Ritual.
here. Yeah, there were Ritual. Who else was out there? Yeah.
I think I don't want to get any names
Frank.
wrong.
Right, St. Frank was there.
Yeah.
It was definitely a great lineup. This year is bound to be even better, which we won't be going to this year, which I told you about.
Yeah.
Which is a bittersweet thing. It's not necessarily because we don't want to or we don't have the time, but it just doesn't make sense for us right now with our
One thing
operations.
I remember about that coffee festival is I worked my ass off on like a 10-minute video that didn't get played.
Oh, that's right.
You're like,
that's
we're going to have a projector, bro. It's going to be like the movie theaters in there. Then I get there. I'm like, where's the projector? You're like, no space for that.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
Another valuable lesson.
It was fun making it, man. I remember the beginning was such a train wreck. I thought it all worked well.
Gee, thanks.
Well, I'm not talking about like.
But you're not
You
wrong.
just really sucked before.
No, not. It's just like stuff was falling over.
Right.
You're just like, oh my god, I don't have enough of this. I don't have
Yeah.
enough of that. Everything's falling. This is not working. It was
Right.
crazy. There was a
Right.
lot of scrambling that
Yeah.
that morning, which it was fun though. But side note, I also wanted to say that it's cool. I've gotten 3 texts since you opened up at Salesforce Tower, and people were like, "Hey, I just saw like a little cube, Estas Manos. Isn't that like? Aren't you associated with that?" And that feels really good to be like,
Yeah,
"That's my
definitely,
boy.
Definitely.
That's my boy."
Baby
You know?
steps.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So, last one. What are some things you want to set out to accomplish with either in your personal life or with Estas Manos? Well, it kind of is.
Yeah. I mean, Estas Manos is definitely my personal life right now.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, what I want to accomplish with it is a 100% crop to cup operation, where our farmers are being paid just as equal to our baristas and every step in the supply chain fairly. So that's ultimately what I want to accomplish with Estas Manos. But outside of that, on a personal level, I've just recently found a lot of interest in outer space and
I thought you were gonna say
The way you were looking at us
astronomy
made
and,
it seem like you were about to say something weird.
So that has become like a recent
cool.
goal of mine, life goal, future goal, is to get somewhat involved in space exploration and just space studies. And I don't even know the
Really?
right terms for all the
Nice.
different space avenues you can get into, but yeah,
was
that's
not expecting.
How did you come to that conclusion? I want to
Did you watch
dedicate.
it?
it's
Movie?
it's mostly just out of the fact that, like I said, right now Estas Manos is my personal life.
Yeah.
It's very difficult for me to answer that question because
That's true.
my 100% focus right now is with Estas Manos. So
Yeah.
that'll be the next, and just being realistic about what type of what I'm trying to accomplish and how long that's going to take. I will definitely be spending the next 5 to 10 years working on Estas Manos. So if things go according to plans and if I end up accomplishing what I want to accomplish. So
Nice.
yeah.
Wow.
Great answer. Great podcast. You did great, dude.
Thanks,
Thanks
dude.
for coming.
I
It
hope
was
so.
fun. I hope you had fun.
I had great
I
time.
had
bad.
great.
Yeah, great
I
time.
had a great.
Had a blast.
Let the listeners know where to find you, what to follow, website, whatever you need to do to plug
Yeah.
yourself in Estas Manos.
Definitely. So we will be launching our online store here soon at estasmanoscoffee.com. We have an Instagram at Estas Manos. Check us out. Keep up with us. We have our cuber at the bottom of Salesforce Tower, in between the tower and the Transbay Transit Center, Monday through Friday. And we'll be wrapping up Presidio Picnic here at the end of October, but we'll be present in pop-ups all over the city over the next few months. So yeah, keep an eye out for us and come grab yourself a coffee.
There you go. Sounds great. Well, this is the end of audio file number 2. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for listening. And yeah, that's about it. Don't know how else to close this. Hope you had a good time. Later, y'all.